Hi, phenomenal people. This is Phenomenon with Tonia. I have a special treat for you today. I have my friend, I have a colleague. He's a consultant, and we're going to talk to you about what that is. His name is Mr. Bill Kauffman. So let's welcome Mr. Bill Kauffman to Phenomenon. Hi, Bill.
Hey, Tonia, how are you this morning?
I am good. I'm excellent. I'm looking forward to our discussion on today. So let's just begin by telling the audience a little bit about you.
Yeah, a product of Huntsville, Alabama, believe it or not. My father worked at NASA for a little over 25 years. Started in the early 60s, and then was so I got to see Huntsville grow. I got to see, I had a front row seat to the space program, and got to see Velcro, in its infancy when it was being tested.
Wow.
Got to see, what we now would have like a $2 calculator. At the time, it was about $400 or $500. So
glad I wasn't back then.
Yeah. Well, it's just my point being is that I have a great fondness for Huntsville. I went to school, obviously grew up, then went to Westminster Academy there, and then went on to get my Bachelor of Science degree from UAH, and so then I went off into the world and got to see a lot of different places and a lot of experiences. But I grew up probably about 3 miles from Alabama A&M. So
that's wow.
I was up in the north part of, I was up in that area. So I drove by it every day, and I got to see it grow as well.
Yeah, it is. Alabama A&M has really grown into, for lack of better words, a phenomenal place to kind of look at.
Sure.
I graduated from Alabama A&M, and it is totally different now. I laugh about the students getting on the Bulldog transit system, and I'm like, these are the same buildings that was there like a long time ago. Why are you not walking? Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So that's great. That's awesome. So I want to talk to you a little bit about, I know your background is DOD as mine and all that.
Right.
You work for a large corporation, and you were the project manager, I want to say.
Yeah, I worked for the Fluor Corporation for the first about 19 years of my career right out of UAH, and I got to live in the Caribbean and work on projects there, and then in the Netherlands and Europe, and then we moved the project to Spain, and so I got to see a lot of the world through my project management experience at Fluor, and then decided in 1999 to go out on my own and consult with both projects and proposal management. And that's how you and I got to know each other, doing some proposals together.
Right. The other thing that you and I have in common is that Fluor was my first biggest client.
Really?
Yes, they were. When I decided to be a consultant, and my main basically discipline was contract purchasing system reviews, and Fluor was going through a huge audit. And so I came in and did an assessment. So Fluor was like my first big, okay, hey, I'm a consultant now. So the connection between you and I and what we're doing is great. So that's why I want you to talk about, okay, why be a consultant? I mean, why not just stay an employee? So what drove you to do that?
Well, it took a while, but I learned that the difference between consulting internally as an employee and consulting as an external consultant is that the risk was a little different between the two, but even as an employee, we were, contract to contract dependent. So the company took the risk to, find the contracts to fill the gaps that will eventually, you're going to work yourself out of a project, right? All of us do that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I finally understood that I could take that risk myself and work with a multitude of different clients that I could take that margin myself, if you will, take that risk. So risk reward, and I felt like even in my teens that I had an entrepreneurial kind of spirit about me, and a kind of a worldview that got excited about the risk associated with taking on a project, if you will, taking on a new client, taking on no guarantees of income. Right. That it was totally dependent upon showing up every day and giving your best to your client, and that's the best that you can do, right? Right. And even after that, there are economic factors in play that ultimately decide what clients do and where they spend their money. So I took a chance, and I think that anybody who's thinking about what it might be like is just picture yourself on a high wire with no net, and that'll give you kind of a visualization of what it's like, and are you willing to take that risk? Or some people are just not wired that way, as you know, right? And they need the to be accompanied by others to feel safe and secure. So
now your example was scary. Wire without a net. That was really.
But you've
scary.
been there. You know that's true.
Exactly. So we're going to go to break, and what I want you to do when we come back from break is kind of tell the listening audience, okay, how do you fit? What do you get? What feeling do you get when you know that you're in the right spot, when you're in your sweet spot, so to say? How do you know when to take risk? The motto of my show is feel the fear and do it anyway. And I want them to hear from you as to kind of how you felt when you took that risk, and kind of the ups and the downs, the pros and the cons. Okay, so absolutely. I want everyone to know that you can visit me on Phenomenon on Facebook. Also, you can email me at phenomenon@morningbirdmedia.com. You can also now see me on Periscope, and it's at Tonia Phenom. So when we come back on break, we're going to talk to Bill about why you're going to take that risk if you got what it takes to take the risk. So we'll see you on the other side.
Phenomenon with Tonia will be back right after this.
Validar, Flames of Camelot, is the first installment of an epic trilogy that follows the exploits of this mythical warrior as he journeys through time and space. Available at TatePublishing.com.
Hi, this is Chance Glenn. The best way to support the show is to buy from Amazon.com through our website at MorningBirdMedia.com. Everyone buys online these days, from school supplies to Christmas gifts, and everyone buys from Amazon.com. You can help us by clicking on the Amazon button on our webpage, then shopping as you normally do. There's no additional cost to do this, but a part of what you purchase goes towards helping the show. With it, we can keep this content coming the way you like it at morningbirdmedia.com.
Make your next event, workshop, or conference more powerful with improved networking for attendees and more useful analytics about those in attendance using Confab Analytics' new professional networking environment. Sign your event up with Confab Analytics and tailor our networking environment to suit your specific event. Your attendees simply download our free Confab app to their mobile device. Through the app, they are able to check in without waiting in line and can share key information electronically with fellow attendees. Using your custom Confab event portal, you can view and store analytics about your attendees, as well as send to them individually or as a group up-to-date information about everything going on at your event. They'll always know where the best networking opportunities are. By using Confab Analytics' professional networking environment, your attendees will have a better experience and be more likely to tell others about how good your event was. In turn, you'll have more meaningful data about your attendees so you can give them an even better experience next time. Confab maximizes your event by making you and your attendees part of the network and a whole lot more. For more information, visit confabanalytics.com or email sales@confabanalytics.com. Confab, connecting the most important part of the network, you.
The Morning Bird Media Network at morningbirdmedia.com.
Welcome back to Phenomenon. Now, here's Tonia.
Welcome back. We are back with the extraordinary, phenomenal Bill Kauffman. So before the break, we talked about risk. And that's something that everybody's afraid of. You know, do I take the risk? Do I not take the risk? Will I seem to be a coward if I don't take the risk? You know, do I understand if I take the risk, what will happen? So Bill's going to help us out with that. So let's talk a little bit about that, Bill.
You know, the thought that everybody has this tension and who thinks along these lines about going out on their own and working for themselves, regardless of the industry, but there's this tension that's inherent in the conversation that one has in thinking about this, and it does. We kind of boil it down to risk reward, and often we err on the side of the reward.
Right.
I'm going to have more time. I'm going to have more money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have more job satisfaction, and we do a very poor job. On average, I'll say, in understanding the risks associated with this.
Right.
And so, those of us that work in, this DoD space, we understand, risk management, right? The government, it requires us to be able to quantify, identify, and be able to explain mitigations, or at least potential mitigations for these items. And so those of us who work in this space, and a lot of folks in Huntsville, have this experience,
mm-hmm.
we fail to apply that to ourselves and to our own lives. And I think there lies, if I had one bit of advice for anybody considering this, is to be able to first identify the risks associated with a new venture.
Mm-hmm.
What about my market? Who do I know?
Mm-hmm.
It's not only important to know people, but you have to know decision makers,
mm-hmm.
and you have to get into the mind of those decision makers. Is to what are the triggers that will turn a possibility into a purchase order or a contract with you. Or just to make the sale. So you have to be able to identify them. You have to then follow each identified risk then to some kind of quantifications of likelihood and severity if they occur, and then what do you do? What are your mitigations against each one? So you basically have to have your own risk management plan, and that could be very practical things like does my spouse or my significant other are they able to carry our load financially,
right,
while I'm in this startup,
right?
How much do I have in savings,
mm-hmm.
and then what's my trigger line when things aren't working out like you have planned? What's your trigger line to redirect your energy to something different?
Right.
Maybe go back into the workforce. So these are all things I would encourage people who are thinking about this to just basically organize themselves in this way so as to maximize the opportunity while minimizing a negative impact, if you will, to some kind of risk occurring.
No, that was good. That was a good. Say that again. That was really good. I need to take that into myself.
Well, you have to be able to truly be honest
mm-hmm.
with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's because if you're not honest with yourself, if you look past an identified risk and say that won't happen, or the chance of that won't happen, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And obviously, anybody else in your family who's associated with you, children or others, sometimes people are taking care of older parents. So whoever's in the boat with you will be impacted, with an occurrence of a risk.
That's good. That's real good, because I hear people all the time, they're working and they say, I'm just going to quit. I'm just going to quit. I'm just going to start my own company. And I'm saying, no, you need to have something lined up before you do that. That's not a very good decision on your part. But a lot of people are so frustrated, Bill, with being, and especially when you know you're an entrepreneur at heart. You know, sometimes you get locked in, because I've felt that way so many times being in a company. When you get locked into a place and you know, I'm so much bigger than that. I'm so much bigger than that. You know, so sometimes people get so frustrated with sitting there, you know, constantly doing the same thing over and over again, that frustration drives them to really not thinking strategically on how I need to move out and, basically become what it is that I already know I'm supposed to become. I mean, that's what the phenomenon experience is all about. So, Correct. What would you say to that person that's frustrated, sitting at a desk knowing that, hey, I have an entrepreneur spirit at heart. Hey, I know a couple of people, what would you say to them?
I think I would create, I would be honest with myself by literally writing down on a piece of paper what the objective is of quitting and doing something else. What is that something else in very objective terms? You have to be able to write these things down so that you can begin to visualize what can come off that paper in real life.
Right.
And you have to, but you can't visualize if you don't have, something concrete in which to visualize, right?
That's really good. Mm-hmm.
So it has to be written in 2 dimensions on the sheet of paper, and then visualized in 3D in your mind, so that you're able to you're able to do the things that are necessary when you kind of venture out. Now, if you're a trust fund kid, which I don't know any trust fund kids, but I guess they're out there. So if you're a trust fund person and you have, you've got a bankroll behind you that allows you to do most anything, then this won't apply. But for the 99.9% of us
we're not all Donald Trump or
exactly. You're going to have to, if you're working in a job now that you don't like, you're going to have to do double duty for probably 1 to 2 years in getting ready. So you're going to have to take what you've got down on paper, and you're going to have to make it come to life while you're continuing to work. And you need to give your very best wherever you're at.
Right. That's good, Bill.
Your employer has hired you for your very best. So you need to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm going to give my very best from 8 to 5, and then when I get home and get dinner going or wherever you're stationed in life, then you're going to start working on your next venture.
That's good.
And your satisfaction is going to come by balancing those two out. And there'll be some days you're working 16, 20 hours a day. You're on 2-3 hours of sleep. But everybody that I've seen who's been successful in this transition has doubled up for some period of time. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 5 years. I've even known people to go that long, because what they wanted to tackle was so great that it took that amount of time and amount of effort.
Right.
So it's going to create sacrifice, not only for how you're spending your time, but those that are in your family and your loved ones, they're going to have time taken away from them.
Right.
And you have to ask yourself, is it worth that investment?
Right.
If I miss that soccer game or basketball game or ballet, what's the impact?
Right.
and everybody has to be on board, right?
Right.
And you got to get your kids involved, and you got to get your spouse or significant other involved, and everybody has to be aligned to the purpose. And only when you're honest with yourself, that then allows you to be honest with others. Because if you're keeping something from someone who's impacted by your actions, that's a disservice to both of you.
That's
right.
That's right. It is.
And you've seen many marriages fall apart when someone is not aligned with the other.
Right.
And so I think that's what I would recommend is you have to be willing, after putting this down on paper, you have to be willing to say, okay, what's this going to cost me, and is it worth it? And then you have to get the buy-in from those around you, those who love you, those who are counting on you. And again, I'll say you cannot shortchange your current employer.
Right.
That will come back to bite you. And you have to be able to look everybody in the mirror and live with integrity to yourself and with those around you.
That was so good, Bill. I mean, that was so good. A couple of things that come in my mind. I'm always putting out a nugget because I told the audience I grew up in a Baptist church, and so a lot of my teaching comes from that. So what I heard you say is that they need to write it on paper, and even the Bible speaks about writing the vision and making it plain. But the latter part of it, which is kind of what people miss, which is so actually phenomenal, is that they said so that men will be able to run with it. So your vision has to be so plain to people that they can grasp it, that they can understand that idea, and they can say, hey, well, I understand what Bill's doing. I want to be a part of that. I want to buy into that. Hey,
right.
But first it has to be plain to you. If it doesn't make any sense to you, hey, you kind of need to go back to the drawing board and kind of write it down again. And you keep writing until it actually becomes plain, even to a point where, I can explain to my 18-year-old daughter who thinks that, I'm the world's worst at knowing anything about anything. She's the smartest person in the world. So, if I write a vision to her and she understands it, then I've done a good job for today. So
that's right. That's right.
So I think that was real important what you said about that.
Well, Proverbs. I've done a lot of studies in Proverbs, and I would highly recommend anybody who's not even a Jesus follower. Mm-hmm. There's so much wisdom in Proverbs that cuts across the whole human experience. That in Proverbs 16:9, for example, it says that a man's heart plans his way, but the Lord determines his steps. So that is a very, very wise, especially if you're a Jesus follower like you and I are. That's something that we got to keep at the center of everything we're doing, particularly in this conversation we're having here.
Right.
That we have to recognize that our Creator, who wants a personal, no kidding relationship with each of us as individuals, He has that plan for our lives.
Right.
And so, if you got this thought, this dream in your mind, particularly as a Jesus follower, the first thing you want to come to terms with is where's the root of that dream? Is that root coming from the Lord, or is that root coming from somewhere else?
Right. I just made that root up.
Yeah. Well, it's I've done it both ways, Tonia. I've done it my way, and I've done it God's way.
And I can tell you that, you know what the better way.
Yes.
You know what the better way is. Absolutely.
That's right.
So, I think that we've given the audience something to think about. I love the fact that you broke everything down to the point of where, I'm going back and I'm listening. I'm going to go back and listen to some of the things you said because, sometimes I find myself in clients' offices where I'm like, am I really supposed to be here?
Yeah.
Is this really where I'm supposed to be? And then another thought in my head was, oh no, you're supposed to be Miss Phenomena. Feel the fear and do it anyway. But no, am I really supposed to be here? So, I want you to tell the audience about, what your company is. I think it's Project Services of Georgia. PSOG is what I remember it.
Correct.
And so, talk to them about that. Tell them how to find you,
Sure.
all of that.
Project Services of Georgia. The website is www.psogllc.com. Email is bill@psogllc.com. And you can find me at both places. The company is really centered around providing custom solutions to clients' needs, particularly in the business development, capture, proposal management, in government responses. And I've got over 70 projects under belt, and so I have seen most everything out there, from satellite systems to putting onboard vehicle power. Actually, for a client there in Huntsville, we were able to win that deal for a Humvee. And so from IT systems to HR systems, to radio systems, satellites, as I mentioned earlier. So the idea being is that you have to set yourself apart from your competition, and time is your friend in the business development and capture phase of the effort, because you now have the ability to really learn what the needs are from your government client. What are their pain points? What are they experiencing now with their current incumbent? What do they like? What do they don't like? And this kind of information just becomes very useful to determine if you even need to spend the money, right? To chase the deal. Because there's an old saying that many people who've been in this business will recognize, is that if you're not shaping, then you shouldn't be bidding. And
right.
So I really know that I'm sensitive to the fact that clients have a hard time investing early because they think they're going to be spending more money, and I think it's actually quite the opposite. That by spending strategic money up front, they'll then be able to make an educated decision. And sometimes the money saved is the money that's not spent.
Right. That's good.
And so then when you're able to legitimately chase a deal, then the bulk of the effort in your response, it should be done in the capture window, because you have time to get the best out of your engineers and your human resources, if you will, who are coming together collaboratively to shape an approach. And sometimes you need to buy a capability or a gap. You need to have a teammate that brings that to the table. And when you're able to use that capture window, when there's not the pressure of being on the clock with the drop of a proposal, or an RFP, I should say, then you can make wise decisions, right?
Right.
And then when the RFP hits, there should be no surprises to what you've done in your capture phase, and you're able then to focus on quality in your response, and then be able to finish early and without stress. I know that seems kind of like Pollyanna to many.
Absolutely.
Who
early,
live under the
without
gun.
stress? No.
Yeah.
How about 2 o'clock in the morning?
It seems so counterintuitive, but it is possible. I just finished up a deal for a client here in Atlanta, and we were done, maybe 4 or 5 days ahead of schedule, because we were able to apply these principles. And so it's, engineers many hate proposals because they got to do the regular job plus their proposal work, and they get doubled up, and they get frustrated. And they, how many red teams have you been to, Tonia, where everything blows up.
Almost all of them.
Well, they happen quite a bit, and that's because there's just been not enough time devoted in the capture window.
Right.
And maybe you're chasing a deal you shouldn't be chasing to begin with. So my point is let time be your friend in this business instead of your enemy, and be smart and make proactive, intelligent decisions that are the best for your company, and frankly gets the government what they want to buy. And so that would be my approach to working with anyone, is to spend their money wisely and help them make wise decisions.
That's so good, Bill. You guys need to get in touch with Bill. He gave you his information. I've worked with him on several projects. He's absolutely awesome. So if you're in this DoD industry and you're thinking about going after an opportunity, or you're just kind of stuck, reach out to Bill. And if you can't get in touch with him, like I said, I always tell you, you can email me at phenomenon@morningbirdmedia.com. You can find me on Facebook at Phenomenon. You can now follow me on Periscope at Tonia Phenom. So before I end, I want to tell you all, thank you, Bill. And I want to tell everybody, feel the fear and do it anyway. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
This has been Phenomenon with Tonia. To learn more about the show, visit morningbirdmedia.com, or you can email at phenomenon@morningbirdmedia.com. Also, check out Facebook under Phenomenon. Come back and join Tonia as she helps you feel the fear and do it anyway.